interview in this case. But as you probably all know, that tourism is one of the world's fastest growing industries and a key economic driver for our Pacific Islands. However, we are very highly vulnerable to natural disasters, also climate change impacts, and particularly to pandemics that we are all facing now, COVID-19. I think if we look at it, we have 20 Pacific Island member countries. 5 of our top destinations will have significant who have significant economic reliance on the tourism sector will be definitely affected, and that's Fiji, French Polynesia, Cook Islands, Samoa, and Vanuatu. And I'm taking this out, particularly their reliance is tourism contributes about 30% or more to their GDP in this case. SPTO had forecasts, of course, for growth, etc., moving forward, but we will probably won't achieve those growths, which I'll mention later. We all know that the COVID-19 has drastically impacted international travel and spending, which in turn will affect Pacific tourism in the coming months in this case. Currently, it's the first quarter of in the Pacific, and that's normally our low season. So we haven't actually seen a great impact at the moment. But talking to some of our key tourism stakeholders, the forecast for the second, third, and fourth quarter is very poor and also very soft in this case. And I think it's also not easy for us to get an accurate assessment of the impacts just yet in this area. There's definitely a reduction in forward bookings, as I had said, for quarter 2 onwards, and we're hearing that from a lot of our tour operators, the travel agents that depend on inbound traffic, and definitely the tourism sector in the region would be definitely hard hit by the actual extent of this is difficult to predict currently, particularly if the situation continues to unfold. And of course, the high risk of this is we don't know where it's heading and when it's gonna last in this case or finish in this area. I think in the past 20 years of my experience in the tourism industry, this is the largest impact I've seen. We've gone through tsunamis, natural disasters, Ebola, SARS, but this one is definitely something that has really hit globally as well as the Pacific in terms of impact. I'm quoting statistics that were given to us by UNWTO in this case. Recently, UNWTO forecast in January 2020 indicate a 3 to 4% growth in global tourist arrivals. However, they've also said that these global tourist arrivals would decline by 1 to 3%, which transmits to a loss of about US 30 to 50 billion. And this, I'm talking about this on international visitors in this case. If we look at the Pacific region, UNWTO also predicts that the Asian Pacific region, who has been the fastest growing region compared to all other regions, will be the most affected region, estimating to be about 9 to 12% decrease in international tourist arrivals in 2020 and moving forward. The SPTO, according to our predictions, predicted a 3.3% growth in arrivals between 2020 to 2024, accumulating to about 2.7 million arrivals in 2024. I'll be frank, we won't get that in the situation we are. We're currently at 2.1 million, according to our latest stats, which was in 2018. The impacts of COVID-19 will be felt across the tourism industry as a whole. The worst hit our small, micro, medium enterprises in this case, which will require significant support. And more than 95% of our industry is small, micro, medium enterprises in this case. I also would like to mention Fiji as a leading destination because it's the hub of the Pacific tourism, and it will definitely feel the impacts of COVID-19. And I think you have had stats that's been given to the press from different sources. I think a good example is Fiji Hotel and Tourism Association has reported a 40% decline in bookings for the next 3 months. Fiji Airways, since the new change in advisories, according to press sources, significant decrease in bookings. I think from 22,000 per week to about 2,000. And we all could witness that at the airports. As we can see, there are less people. I think it's also important to us also consider that our major source markets in the Pacific is Australia and New Zealand, and combined market share is about 64%. And with the new advisories, etc., the impact will be further, will be much more higher in this case because of the new overseas travel advisories for both countries in this case. And I think definitely there will be a big loss in terms of visitor arrivals to Fiji, as well as the revenue generated in terms of tourism exports in this case. Last week I was very fortunate while we had our regional workshops to also meet some of the key stakeholders in the industry, and you all know that they're based there. Currently, the first quarter, as I'd mentioned, the short haul markets are being impacted, but more than our long haul markets. And when I say long haul markets, that's the US, Europe, etc., Asia, because most of them are booking between May to October in this case. But our short haul markets are definitely impacted in this area. The hotel suppliers will likely be impacted because of the disruptions in international supply chain. There will be shortages of simple things like tires for the transport, in this case, because a lot of the stuff is manufactured in China in this area, so it will affect the rest of the supply chain. When I was talking to them, many of them have been trying to keep their staff because, you know, for the welfare and well-being. They've tried innovative ways to help the staff, whether you go on leave without pay, reducing their working hours in this case, and so to avoid laying the staff off in this case because they value their staff. I think the key thing for their survival now into the future is cash flow. So in terms of business-wise, they're trying to encourage people not to cancel any bookings, but to keep them, and in doing that, they're allowing date changes anytime, etc., so that people will still keep their booking because they paid for it, but rather than cancel, because cash flow is king to them in this case. The industry is also planning cost-cutting measures because, you know, the expenditure has to come down, but also looking at recovery strategies as well. Once the COVID-19 is settled, and then we need to encourage more visitors into the region. In speaking of that, we also have our South Pacific Tourism Exchange 2020. It is our premier event that we hold every year, and we have definitely cancelled this premier event. It's the first time since its establishment in 2014 that we had to cancel. We've done that we feel that we are showing leadership and responsibility in a time of uncertainty, valuing our people's health and safety above all else. And also the financial viability of the event has been compromised due to travel advisories, as you're probably aware, and that would significantly impact the participation from our buyers and sellers overseas. And I think in a nutshell, it's a no-brainer. We have no choice. The pandemic is on. All other international events, I mean, for example, the ITB in Berlin, the Sea Trade in Miami that we normally, the Pacific promoted, has been postponed. But we have Fiji Tourism Exchange, which has been cancelled, the Australian Tourism Exchange in Australia, the Trends in New Zealand, and of course us, we were last in the line, have cancelled. We had to seriously just consider all factors in this case, and it wasn't unlikely, particularly consulting with our key stakeholders in this case. But I think at the end of the day, it's important for us to all understand tourism is a people-first industry in this case, and our people are the greatest assets, that we must protect them first than anything else in this area. In moving forward, as you probably now aware that our major events are cancelled and postponed, SPTO intends to align our response efforts to our stakeholders and other partner agencies that we work with, so that we can focus on supporting our members in the following ways. First, coordination of information sharing, which is very important. At the moment, we're sharing all our travel advisories from our member countries with our key partners, so that they're fully aware of what the changes are in terms of the advisories of visitors coming into the country. The other thing that we would like to consult with our members and stakeholders in seeking partnerships and lobby for funding to support a coordinated regional recovery efforts, and also to provide advice to our member countries in the region, particularly in crisis management, helping them in terms of at this time of challenge, and also contribute and support for any wider recovery efforts. I'd like to emphasize that tourism is strong in the region and is a resilient industry. We have overcome shocks in the past with SARS, the financial recession, etc. And I think it's important that the Pacifics needs to stand together as one family to overcome this challenge, in this case, in moving forward. As a result of that, SBTO is proud to announce that we have established a Pacific Wave Recovery Fund, and this is a recovery and reassurance program aimed at re-inspiring, reuniting, and re-engaging as we move together in the tourism industry. And we're very grateful that one of the first partners who contribute to the fund is the New Zealand Maori Tourism, who is a valued partner. They have generously contributed New Zealand 50,000 to start off this recovery fund, which is open to any donors and development partners to donating in helping to support the Pacific tourism industry. Thank you.